at 75. Maybe we should start now. And hopefully by the time we get into our intro, we'll get more people joining. Anyway, welcome everyone who's on the call now in the webinar. This is our second attempt at this, trying to connect everybody in the state of Maryland, try to help make sense of where we are right now, where we're going in the future. That's a hard one because we can't see into the future, but certain things, oh, Brad Roos, he might be trying to get on. I already sent it to him. Hold on, I got to send him his. Nathan, could you send Brad Roos, email him or text him the sign-in information?
Yep, I'm on it.
Through his cell phone. So anyway, last week we were lucky enough to have a couple, just to to talk about last week for a moment or two. We were lucky enough to have the CEO of USYS Soccer join us, and he might be joining us again. He might actually be on the call. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at the total list. And he reached out with Maryland and said that the U.S. Youth National Association would come up with some type of language that would maybe help you guys navigate through the next phase of this issue, which is primarily refunds. I think the top, other than a lot of other things we're all worried about, the most important thing, especially to the clubs, I think is how to navigate through refunds. US Youth Soccer came out with a statement yesterday. We forwarded that out to our affiliate list and everyone who's on that's on our constant contact list. So hopefully that document will help you guys navigate a little bit more into the future of as far as refunds. As a board, the state of Maryland decided the other day that we're going to come up with our programs and try to figure out a guideline as to what type of refunds that we could give back based on the scenario, and it would have to be a percentage. And that's probably one of the things that a lot of the clubs are discussing now, because there's a lot of administrative costs that goes into putting clubs in business and putting the state in business and all these other programs. And we can't do a blanket refund because everybody would basically, or most of us would be financially destroyed over that. There's a lot of costs for doing business. And so what we're recommending at this point is that each club should probably look at their expenses of what they have already in for the spring season and onward, and see what makes most sense, whether there's no refund, whether there's a partial refund, or whether you're still deciding on what to do. And that's what I think most clubs are up against. If you look at that letter that US Youth that we forwarded yesterday, and if you don't have it, let us know. We'll get it to you. It's actually on our website too. You could use some of those tools to communicate with your members, your club members and players and families. So it's really important. It's really important to figure that out. There's some clubs that already sent out letters to their members that were outstanding. I read a couple yesterday, and they basically said at this point there's no refunds going out. They're looking at the landscape. They're looking at what they already have in, and the other issue is your members and our members have to realize that we have to stay in business. You have to stay in business to be able to provide soccer services for your members in the future. And so everybody, while we're all going to take a financial hit, everybody has to realize from the top all the way down to the bottom that everyone is going to be hurt by this virus, and there's no winners coming out of it. And with that, I wanted to alert everybody that the guest speaker for this week is a CPA, Steve Kurinsky, who was nice enough to come on the line to talk about and answer any questions that he can about some of the local, state, and federal outlays that are out there and help. So Steve, if you like to come on and introduce yourself and maybe talk a few minutes about some of the programs that are out there to help some of the nonprofit and for-profit clubs.
Absolutely. And I appreciate Mark for asking me to join this call. My firm has done at this point 3 other kind of Zoom virtual webinars, podcasts about all of these different programs with many different groups, as well as a few next week as well. There's a team at my office who's been head deep in this stuff since it got passed on March 27th through the weekend and all the past couple of weeks. So we are incredibly ingrained with this information. So as you can see on the screen, I'm a tax manager at DeLeon Stang CPAs. We're a regional firm in the Gaithersburg, Maryland, Frederick, Maryland, and Leesburg, Virginia areas. There's a lot of good programs out there. And most businesses and nonprofits certainly do qualify for some or more of these programs. The one that got the biggest news and is the biggest value is called the PPP, or a Paycheck Protection Program. All businesses and 501c3 nonprofits qualify for this program. Single member LLCs, so if you're a Schedule C, all the way up to if you're a C corporation, you qualify for this program. And again, 501c3s are the only nonprofit that qualifies for this program. The Paycheck Protection Program is geared to allow businesses and nonprofits to continue to employ their staff and pay their salaries through June. So the computation, which I'll get in, I'm going to stay at 30,000 feet. I'm more than happy to talk off the line in more detail about your specific situation. But in general, the computation takes the 2019 average payroll cost, divides it by 12, multiplies it by 2.5, and you can add a few other things to that. So it can become a very sizable number for a company or a nonprofit. You apply for this program via your bank. So if you have not yet reached out, certainly reach out to your banker and see if they are offering the program. If they are not, we do have a few local banks in the Montgomery County, Northern Virginia, Frederick areas that are accepting new clients, but most banks are going to say that they are going to prioritize their current customers first. The application, you do certainly need to provide documentations and payroll reports. Each bank seems to be a little bit different. Heard businesses have been accepted, and SBA has given them a number, and funding is coming any day now. So that is certainly a great program to check into. The second best program out there is called the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, or EIDL. And that you apply for on the SBA website. All businesses and nonprofits under 500 employees are eligible for a EIDL loan. And when I say loan, it's not really a loan. All businesses are entitled to a $10,000 grant. It's what it is. It's a grant. It's free money. And then if you ask for a larger amount, it's a loan. I believe the rate kept changing, but I think it's right now around 2.5, 2.65, somewhere in there. It's a very low interest rate with very favorable payment terms. Let me just piggyback on one thing I forgot to talk about in PPP. The PPP it starts out as a loan, and as long as you use the funds in its intended use, which means for payroll, so for wages, for employment taxes, for health insurance, retirement stuff, all those sort of things, that loan converts to a grant, and you do not need to pay that money back. So the PPP loan that you get can convert to a grant and become free money that is not taxable to the business or nonprofit. So again, it's very valuable. EIDL has a similar, the 10,000 is a true grant. You don't pay that back if you keep it as a loan, very favorable terms. There are also employment tax credits that are available. So for nonprofits that do not qualify for the PPP can certainly still get benefit via the employment pension credit, which is filed with your payroll provider. And it is a 50% credit based on the wages paid to an employee during any quarter starting April 1st of 2020. So if we think that to simplify that statement, if your organization has one employee and they're paid $10,000 after April 1st, you get a $5,000 credit on your 941 form to offset payroll taxes. If you have an employee that makes $50,000, you are limited to only 10,000 of wages or a $5,000 max credit per employee. So if you have 10 employees, they are each entitled to up to a $5,000 credit that you will get on a payroll form. So certainly contact your payroll providers and verify that they are participating. We already know ADP, Paychex, Gusto, Paylocity, and the PEOs in this area, such as USYS, Infinity HR, and a few others, are already participating in the program. But if you're using a smaller group, certainly contact them directly for those credits. And I'd be happy to talk with you after for various specifics on that. If you are in Montgomery County, they have just launched a brand new credit yesterday. The application, I believe, is still not available as of this morning, but it should be available any day now. It is a grant, again, free money, up to $75,000 per organization that is currently in good standing in Maryland, but it looks like you do have to be a Montgomery County business. We're still verifying they have not issued a lot of guidance on this at this time, but as of right now, you have to be located in the county. You have to have a decrease in gross revenue of 50% as of the prior year. And you have to have some financial impact of COVID, which is fairly easy to now ascertain at this point. 990s are allowed to apply. We have asked them for guidance to verify that it is not limited to only 501c3s, that 501c4s, C7s, any of the other Cs certainly would qualify. And as long as you can provide different documentation, such as a tax return, current profit loss statements, that sort of stuff, the county is going to give money to those organizations or businesses. The official name is the Montgomery County Public Health Emergency Grant Program, or PHEG. It's not currently live, but you can get on an email blast wait list sort of a thing, that as soon as the application is available, you'll get notification and you apply towards it. There are other programs and a few other tax credits that are available as well. They're not as valuable as these first few that I've talked about so far, but at a high level, that is what the program's involved with. So if you have not yet reached out to your CPA, your attorney or banker and have questions, I'd be more than happy to talk with you guys offline, one-on-one, for very, very specifics about your specific company. And we're here to help, and there's a lot of good programs out there at the federal, at the state, and now at the county level, in Montgomery County at least. So there are certainly resources and benefits out there to keep businesses operating for the next few months. And by then, the goal is that some of these restrictions are then lifted and commerce can engage more and the economy keeps going. We are told there is going to be, most likely there's going to be another stimulus program out there that we anticipate will just extend the deadlines to file for the PPP program or the EIDL. We don't anticipate brand new credits. We just anticipate more cash being allowed to go to businesses than what Congress originally passed. But we have to wait and see what Congress does later this month into May at this point.
Okay.
So I hope that was a good summary. Certainly happy to take a couple questions right now if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, let's open it up for a couple questions.
Hey Steve, I'll Alan Lydiate here. I'll kick off the first question.
Sure.
What is so I was going through my sort of tax advisor. What is the situation for sort of independent contractors and obviously 1099 status?
Great question. The banks this morning opened up their applications for independent contractors and Schedule Cs, a single member LLC, one owner, no employees. We have had direct conversations with high-level managers and bankers at like M&T, BB&T, a lot of regional banks in the areas, and they've actually asked us, well, what kind of documents can we actually get from these businesses? Because they don't have payroll reports like a 940, a 941, that sort of stuff. So we've advised them, well, if you need to get something, most likely you'll probably want their Schedule C from 2019, if available, or 2018, and compute EBITDA. So earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation. We don't believe you should be affected by depreciation. However, there's not guidance at the SBA to verify that. But if we're practically thinking about how businesses are benefiting from all of this stuff, right, we'd be amiss if they included depreciation. So as of this time, definitely contact your banker. The applications went live April 10th, so today at 9 o'clock. And the banks are not totally certain what they're going to ask for. And it's probably going to be a little bit of some hiccups as they figure it all out. Right. But yes, independent contractors now do qualify for the PPP program. You can also qualify for the EIDL, or the Economic Injury Disaster Loan.
Does the two, I mean, obviously, if you're a small business and you've applied for the EIDL or DL, does that impact the application for the triple P?
It doesn't impact the application for it to be accepted, but the PPP can be reduced by the amount of the loan that you received from the EIDL. But the EIDL loans have not yet been, to my knowledge, no client has actually received in funding from the EIDL, because SBA is focusing on the PPP programs first.
Steve, we have a question from one of our affiliates regarding Montgomery County. Is there guidance that suggests how much they view a reduction in current year income that has been converted to credits or prepaid income? In other words, spring 2020 income that now reflects as prepaid fall 2020 income, perhaps?
Sure. So Montgomery County has not given guidance specifically for that answer if you keep books on your accrual basis. So how we're advising our clients right now is that if you're able to determine what your gross revenue was this time period last year and compare it to what it is this year, see what the numbers are. If you can easily say they have decreased by 50%, you're good to go. If you can't, to a cash basis, computation wise, and see if you can get there. And if you can, then that's most likely going to be a conversation to be had with the bank directly and the CPAs to kind of walk the bankers through that exact scenario, because it's a seasonal business with prepaids that can be challenging to truly understand. Unfortunately, I know that's not a great answer, but we have to take a practical approach with this program.
Got it. Any other questions for Steve while we have him?
I don't hear anything, but Mark, if anyone does have questions, feel free to share my email address and I can follow up with them separately.
Okay, Steve, appreciate you coming on, and you can stay on, of course, while you're working, or you could sign off, but we appreciate you giving us 25 minutes of your time to help clarify any concerns that any of the clubs might have.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'll talk to you guys soon.
Okay, thanks. Skip Gilbert, CEO of US Youth Soccer, is on the webinar. Skip, did you want to say a few words before we continue?
Hey, Mark, sorry I was on mute. Just want to, again, say hello to everybody and thank you for all of your time and energy through all of this. And as we sit with USYS, anything we can do to help going through this with the clubs and all of your constituents, please feel free to reach out. We're here to do what we can to hopefully make it a easy transition once we get back onto the field.
Appreciate it. Also, we appreciate your letter that you sent out yesterday. Most of our affiliates have it now. And there was one question from one of our affiliates, wanted to know if MSYSA was going to possibly make a statement similar to Utah. And we did have a board meeting via webinar the other day, and we decided that the first thing we wanted to do is send out US Youth letter, and then the board would get together and come up with some type of language specific to the state of Maryland, similar to what Utah put out. So that would answer one of the questions that was sent to me. On the screen right now, you can see a couple financial options and other webinars that are really good stuff for you guys to look at when you have a chance. We're putting a ton of information on our website because that's probably the easiest way to get this information out to everybody. So I know it's a lot of information, but some of it has to pertain to you and some of it should be able to help you guys. I wanted to change up a little bit, wanted to bring on Brad Roos, who's on the call right now. He's our State Cup director. He wanted to give you an update of what we're working on for State Cup. Brad? You might be on mute, Brad. You might have to unmute yourself. Let me see. I think he's trying to call in from his car, so. You still with us, Brad? Maybe he's not. I don't see him on the list. He might have popped off. All right, so let's skip Brad. He'll come back on later. And Alan Lydiate, MSYSA Director of Coaching, wanted to make a report. Go ahead, Alan. You're on mute, Alan.
Hey guys, sorry, lost my screen now. I was looking through for Brad. Yeah, so just basically a quick one really as a recap on coaching education resources. Next week, we're looking to hold basically a tutorial on the sports session planner. A sports session planner is available for the clubs. for you as members. We have certain amount of licenses that are available for you to utilize as a club. With some of your coaches and with your coaching staff. We're currently just uploading some libraries from some of the English Premier League clubs that you will be able to obviously utilize, download, share, that type of thing. So we're adding a few libraries that we think will be a great resource for you as a club. And then next week, once we've got everything into place, we're just going to go through a tutorial, show you different ways in which you can, ultimately use the software. It's a session design software. If you haven't had the chance to see it, it's a fantastic system. Again, showing you how to clone sessions. So taking some of those from the libraries, building your own sessions, that type of thing. So a tutorial hopefully coming next week. Probably towards the end of the week, Thursday, Friday. So, be on the lookout for that. A couple of series that's running right now that are free. Great for you to send out to your coaches. Bend the Curve series, which is run by USSF. Again, you can see the website there. I've got the WhatsApp group that I'll put up in the information I'll put up in a minute. So again, if you're not in the WhatsApp group, I'm going to be sharing all of these resources in there. If not, we'll have them up on our website if you go to the COVID-19 page. America Scores is another fantastic, it's free. There's some awesome presenters that are going to be in this coaches clinic. So again, that's another fantastic free resource for coaching education. And United Soccer Coaches do match day series. They're also doing now a series that is related around COVID-19 as well. All of those sessions are on YouTube, so you can search them up and go through previous sessions. But again, another fantastic free resource. I'm also looking into possibly doing webinars centered around the grassroots licenses. So basically the 6 tasks of a coach. So I'm in the process of just putting a curriculum together. And again, that'll be free for our members, and probably a weekly webinar just to provide an opportunity for coaches during this time, just to get some educational opportunities. So I'll just show you the WhatsApp information. So there, if you just text, you can either just text me, let me know that you want into the group and I can add you from there. Or if you're already on WhatsApp, just text me through WhatsApp and I can just add you straight into the group. Is Brad on? Did Brad make it?
Not sure. I don't think.
From me, but if anyone has any questions with regards to any coaching education, always feel free to reach out. Obviously all the courses are on hold. We got currently 2 D licenses that are in the development period, and we've got webinars. One was hosted at SAC, the other one was with Baltimore Union. So we have webinars this week to give them an update on basically what the situation is and what we're going to be doing moving forward. So,
Alan, we got a couple questions for you.
Yep.
One question was, any chance you can conduct the grassroots in-person classes via Zoom, different from the US soccer class grassroots classes?
No, the problem is the whole philosophy of the grassroots is about experiential learning, right? So it's essentially when it comes down to the license. Now, obviously, there's online grassroots courses that you can take, which is a 2-hour course, and it obviously walks you through, and that is a license. And obviously, candidates need at least the online course plus 2 in person. However, the Zoom courses can't, essentially take the place of an in-person course, primarily because it's experiential learning and it's the interaction as well, and observing player behaviors in those age groups. And that's, one of the challenges with the new courses is having the players of that age, because we're supposed to be studying what are their behaviors, what are their tendencies at those age groups. So unfortunately, there isn't, as of yet, an opportunity to provide the actual in-person licenses through virtual learning. So, and I'm not sure if that will change as things extend. However, you know, that's basically the most recent update from USSF is, you know, it's centered around experiential learning and reflection. So it's very difficult to do that in virtual learning.
Another question is, how can people sign up for the sports session planner for their clubs?
Yeah, if you email myself for operations@msysa.org or myself at coachingeducation@msysa.org. So you can send me an email and we send you essentially the link to go in and register. Or again, my cell phone's there, you know, feel free to text me and I can point you in the right direction. Yeah, anything in the way of the sports session planner, Nathan with us, who's our operations, can set that up for you or help you set it up.
Okay. Any other questions anybody has? We're still waiting for Brad. I don't know if he's going to make it. He was on and he got bumped off, and I don't know.
I'm here, Mark. I'm here.
Oh, great. Glad you woke up, Brad.
Thank you. My other, it only would give me audio. I couldn't. It was automatically muted. So anyway, first of all, I hope everybody is healthy and safe. And I know we're trying to get through a difficult time, but we'll all get through this together. Really quick, I think most of you by now know that the USYS regionals and national tournaments were canceled for this year. There were 6 major reasons, I think, why we felt that decision was prudent and was responsible. But one of the main ones was the fact that we wanted to allow clubs, leagues, and state associations the opportunity to open up the June and July timeframe, if possible, to hold competitions, which would then allow them to be able to hold programs that would then relate to not having to refund as much money or any money, depending upon the amount of games that we could get in. This was a really important part of the National Committee. So that being said, and again, we don't know. The worst part about this is the unknown, is we don't know if by June or July we're going to be playing. We're hoping. We're cautiously optimistic. As far as the Maryland State Cup, we sent out a survey to all the teams in the State Cup, and this also is the same for President's Cup. In the survey, we had a 30% response, which actually is a really good rate. And I would still say, if you haven't gotten on the survey, please do so. But we had a 70% response rate saying that they would still like Maryland to hold their State Cup competition, which I think is great. We would have to do that. I think the deadline, we would have to get started probably no later than the middle of June in order to get that in. And again, the format is still up in the air, depending upon how much time we have to run the competition. Right now, Nathan and I are going through the responses to see how many teams definitely do not want to play, and making sure that every division is viable to hold a competition, which is what we're going through now. We're not going to force anybody to play. We've decided that if a team does not want to play and take advantage of the opportunity to get back on the field, then we would give a 100% credit for next year, which I think is awesome, which means nothing would be deducted this year for credit card fees or for administration costs or anything like that. So I want to just say thank you to the MSYSA administration and Flo Egan for agreeing to that. We would try to have President's Cup and the State Cup at the same location. so that we would have the staff and the referees and all the resources at one location to do that, whether that be the Soccerplex, Carson's Run, or something like that. We do not anticipate having any of the competitions where teams would have to spend the night. We're looking at the competition this year as being, you can get in your car, drive to it, play the games as long as it's deemed safe, and then go back home. So there would not be any overnight stays or any hotels needed for the two competitions. I can tell you that I'm working with the national committee at looking at maybe a couple of options that if states are able to hold their state cup this year and they have champions, to see if there might be some options for those teams for the competition for 2021. That hasn't been determined. We have a couple of ideas on the table that I think are really exciting and I think will be really cool for if we are able to have the competition this year, really cool for the champions to participate in. But I probably won't have that information for another 10 days, and I can send out a quick email to all the teams. I think that's a quick rundown, Mark, unless there's any questions.
One question, some of the people didn't receive the survey, and some of the people want to know if we can resend out the survey.
Sure, I'm sure, yeah, Nathan would be happy to do that, no problem.
Can I say something there real quick?
Go ahead, Nathan.
The easiest and most effective way is if anybody did not receive it and they want to send me an email and I'll make sure you get it, because if we just resend it again, chances are it may go to spam or you may not get it in the same way that you didn't get the first one.
And what is the best email to reach you, Nathan?
operations@msysa.org.
If you guys didn't write that down or can't remember, you can always go on the website.
I wrote it in the chat.
Okay, great. Okay, Brad, are you finished?
Yeah, I'm finished. Are there any other questions for me?
Any questions concerning State Cup?
That include President's Cup as well?
Yeah, the same information will go for President's Cup. They were sent out a survey, and we're looking to hold them, like I said again, at the same sites. The one thing that will be different is that we talked about we would do something where we would tape. We're not going to do a whole presentation like we normally do for President's Cup, but we would tape when we did when we pulled out the teams for the seeds.
We have a message from somebody who said, I thought the prior message was that President's Cup was canceled.
No, I don't. Mark, I can tell you, I'm sure.
It was only canceled only on the regional and national level.
That is correct.
In fact, we actually have the regional director for President's Cup on the call right now. Sean, would you like to pipe in?
Sure. Pretty much, for the President's Cup side, we're doing a similar type of things that Brad had mentioned, at the regional level for NCS. So one of the things that we're trying to discuss with all the regional President's Cup directors is, do we want to or can we add like a 19 U age group to give a chance for the teams that aged out this year to play next year. And then for the East region, I'm contacting each of the state associations to see how we want to deal with the champions this year, if they can get a wild card spot automatically for next year. It's much easier for us to do it at the President's Cup level than it is for NCS. So I'm still talking with the other states on that.
Hey, Sean, quick question. Would registration windows open back up for President's Cup? One of these clubs said we held off registering because of COVID.
For the state President's Cup?
Yes.
Is that something that, Nathan, can you answer that one?
I mean, theoretically, anything is possible. Registration for President's Cup closed a long time before COVID situation became a reality for Maryland. But that's certainly something we can talk about at the state level.
There was a question from another one of our coaches. Would we be able to host games like in the early 2000s to help with field costs for MSYSA?
What was the question again, Mark?
Would we be able to host games like in the early 2000s to help with field costs for MSYSA? Maybe it's from MSYSA. Would you like to elaborate on that? Who wrote that? If you have audio.
I will tell Mark.
Just home teams will host the games.
Well, it all depends. Again, we would prefer to have all the games at one site because of using the least amount of resources that we need, which I think is really important. If it comes down, though, clearly, if we can't find the field space available for both, that would be an option like we've done in the play-in games in the past. So I think it's an option. We'd prefer not to, just because it makes it much more difficult to, as far as our resources are concerned. The other thing is just a reminder to everybody that the deadline for the U19 State Cup is not until Monday, April 20th. So right now we have 18 U19 teams signed up. If there's anyone else that wants to play, they need to let us know. Unfortunately, because our draws are already done, we can't add any more teams at this point.
Okay. Want to let everybody know, by the way, that during the Zoom chat, if you go on your Zoom chat, the survey was just posted, so you could copy and paste it and use it for your survey.
Can I just add, Mark? Just make sure that they use the correct link. One is the President's Cup survey and one is the State Cup survey. So just make sure they use the appropriate one for whichever team they have entered.
Right. Any other questions about State Cup or President's Cup before we move on?
Yeah, Mark, this is Dan, OBGC. I have a question. It's more concerned for, Brad touched on it, the U19 brackets, and this may affect some of the U18s. So I get we have the survey. I need to go back to a couple of age teams to get their feedback on this. Do we have any idea when we might be playing this? Because most of our guys are going to be off at college, back reporting early for college.
Yeah, Dan, I would say, again, everything's unknown, so that's a problem. I would say that right now we're looking at June and July. We would be done by the end of July, about the same time frame as if teams went to nationals. And again, I think that this is going to be just a different summer in the fact that if we do get the okay to play, that I think a lot of people are not going to be going on vacation because, again, of the same issues of airline and hotel stays. So I'm pretty confident we'll be able to have enough kids for a team to play. The other thing is just a reminder to all the teams that we haven't had our freeze date yet for any of the teams, and that teams can have up to 5 transfers from another club on their roster to participate in the State Cup competition.
Any other questions? Okay, so there's still a few of our guests are still on the call. If anybody has any final questions for Steve, the CPA, or for Skip, the CEO. If not, I think that we can conclude this webinar for this week, and we'll schedule another one for next week. We're gonna, as we said last week, we're gonna try this on a weekly basis, try to give you updates every week. It's kind of like Back to the Future type of approach. We don't know really what we're up against, so that's why we're going to do this as a total state and DC work together collectively to try to get through this, work through State Cup, work through refund policies, work for whatever we can work together to try to make this as easy as we can for everyone. So if there's no other
Hey, Mark.
Hey,
Go
Mark,
ahead.
we have another question in the chat.
Oh,
Hey, Mark, it's Flo.
hi, Flo.
Could we possibly like schedule that for 11:30 next Friday so that people at least know? We can send the invite out, but at least people can then be prepared, because so many people on so many different calls and webinars throughout the week. So if we block off a time now for next week, I think it may help some people.
Okay. So that's it. Let's do it next Friday at 11:30. I have another question from one of our affiliates. What is the timeline for MSYSA to release their letter to clubs regarding the refunds, etc.? I would anticipate that letter to be sent out next week. So most likely by the next time we meet together on a webinar, our statement should be out there of how we see things going forward as far as refunds, etc. Any other questions? I hope everybody stays safe.
Mark, last one for me. Just again, just if there's any issues or concerns that you'd like us to address in these webinars, again, hopefully you're on the WhatsApp group chat. Let us know, what information you need. Obviously, we'll try and find and get everything together so we can put it in a presentation. But again, feel free to reach out with any of your questions or concerns. So appreciate it. Thanks for your time, everybody.
We have another question concerning President's Cup. If we lose State Cup first round, will we still be eligible to register for President's Cup? Anybody like to answer that?
I think that's something that we're going to have to discuss as a state, because we have not done the draw yet. So like Nathan said earlier, everything is being considered. We'll have to look at that and make those determinations. And hopefully we'll have an answer, for that by next week. But some of those questions, we haven't tackled those yet because we weren't sure exactly whether we were going to play or not.
Okay. So I think that concludes. I don't see any other. Hold on. Someone asked if we could talk about tryout window on next call. The issue with the tryouts is that we don't know when we're going to be back to play. Once we get a better sense of when we're allowed to get the kids back on the field and the coaches back on the field to start moving forward and playing a little bit of catch up, we'll have a better guide of when we should have a tryout window. We can't really recommend or mandate a tryout time period now because there's no concrete information. We can't see into the future. As soon as we get the green light that we can start getting back out in the field, the state will mandate a time period of when you could conduct your tryouts within a certain period of time. Any other questions? I think that's it. So we'll talk next Friday at 11:30. If anybody, I think this worked out well. You can constantly send us your questions, or you can send them throughout the week, or we can do them right on the webinar as we move forward. So if there's no other questions or concerns, we'll sign off now and we'll come back next week at 11:30 on Friday. Stay safe, everyone.